Hello and welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast. I'm Phil, and Chris will be joining us in a minute. Today we have the president of the National Pigeon Association, John DeCarlo, here with us, and we're going to talk a lot about the National Pigeon Association, some of the things they got going on, and of course some of the big shows we got coming up. So, John, thanks for coming on today and being with us. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Like I said, we do got some shows that are up and coming right now. The Los Angeles Pigeon Club, I know, does a lot for the pageant of pigeons, and you guys are showing up there as well. What does it look like as far as entries? Are you guys aware of what number of entries are going to be at that show?
At this point, we don't know. Entries are coming in, but I would expect it to be anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 birds. We just had the first show out here in California, the Great Western, about 2 weeks ago. And That show was up about 400 birds over last year. So we're hoping the same holds true for the pageant and the hobby in general, actually. I think now the COVID stuff's, for the most part over. And I think that kept some people away, and, rightfully so. But I'm hoping that we're going to see a rebound this year in all the shows, actually.
Yeah, and even the avian thing, that was going around and closing down that show in Texas. And that caused a lot of hiccups. I think people are really dying to get out there and participate in this again.
It seems like it. It seems like there's a lot of interest. The Louisville Youngbird Show is starting on Friday, and I think their numbers are up a little bit. If it's any indication, if the first two shows are any indication, then I think we'll be in for a really good show season.
So you're third generation pigeon breeder, so I'm going to assume that your father was kind of the mentor that helped you get into it. And would that be correct?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And my grandfather had pigeons, which, he got my dad interested. And my dad still has pigeons.
Okay. Is there like a breed that your family kind of sticks with, or does everybody do their own thing?
Well, my grandfather had a squab farm, so he was more into the utility birds. Mm-hmm. My dad breeds English trumpeters. Okay. He used to have, when I was growing up, he had 1,500 pigeons of probably 60 breeds, but English trumpeters were always his favorite. Personally, I have a lot of breeds, but my favorites are Chinese owls, African owls, and English trumpeters, those three. And I have a lot of other breeds I like: Budapest shortface, magpies, Oriental frills, Texan pioneers.
Okay.
To name a few.
Nope, there he is. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. We're just out here in God's country trying to get it together.
Yeah, I did tell him that you're out there in some undisclosed cave in the middle of nowhere. So
Sorry I'm late. Glad to be here.
John, what breed would you recommend for somebody who's just getting started out? Sort of, I guess you could say, like an easier breed to show.
Well, there's quite a few. I mean, obviously, you can recommend all different breeds, but it's what a person likes. When they walk through a pigeon show, what a person gravitates to. I mean, as far as breeds to be competitive, there's no breed that's easy. Every breed has its difficulty. There's just certain breeds that are easier to raise. Chinese owls, which have been my favorite breed since I was probably 5, are relatively easy to raise. They're not easy to raise a really good one, but as far as rearing youngsters, they're, they take care of their own young well. And, they're pretty fertile. And they seem to breed true. If you have a good pair of Chinese owls, you're probably going to raise good babies. On the other hand, my other favorite breed is African owls, and they are extremely difficult. You have to hand feed most of the babies. You need to use foster parents. They have extremely short beaks. West of England's are a breed, are fairly, I don't want to say easy to raise. Nothing's easy if you don't put work into it and you don't try. But West of England's German owls, and those are some of the breeds that you'll see a lot more of in the shows, because with feed prices and other things, if you don't have to have a lot of foster parents, it makes everything a lot easier.
Okay.
So German owls, Chinese owls, West of England, those are some of the really up and coming breeds where you're seeing just the numbers increase. And all three breeds are really nice breeds. English trumpeters in California are a very big breed. Some don't use foster parents, so it's not mandatory to raise them. but it helps. But they will also raise their own young, and they're very fertile.
Oh, cool.
They're really nice.
You just placed with your African owls, didn't you, at the LAPC?
I did. I was fortunate enough, or lucky enough, to win the young bird show with a white African owl.
Okay.
Luck favors the prepared.
There you go.
Well, I mean, when you're picking best in show out of 40 breeds, it's a popularity contest at that point. And if you just have one that looks good for those 10 minutes.
What is your routine for getting a bird prepped to take to a show? And how early does that start?
Well, with every breed, it's different. If a breed has a crest, you've got to pluck the crest a few days before the show. But really, the routine starts for us out here in January when you mate the birds up. And then you got your babies. By July or August, you can usually kind of tell what your good ones are, or your better birds, or at least your better show birds. That's when I vaccinate all my birds for PMV and adenovirus. That's also when I treat them for parasites. As they're molting or before they really start the heavy molt, they're treated for disease and parasites. That's where I start. And then, you go to fill out your entry for the show, usually a couple weeks before, kind of go through them all, see who's in feather, who's not, who you want to show. And then a week before the show is really when you have to get the birds prepared. And like I said, every breed's different. You pluck crests on some breeds, some, African owls, Budapest shortface, all the shortface breeds, you got to file their beaks, including a lot of the Homer breeds. You have to file their beaks. That usually takes place about a week before the show.
I mean, like you were saying, it really does go back months before you show. You pick that bird out and you really get it prepared. So
I have a question.
Sure.
I heard you said you vaccinate for PMV and adenovirus.
Yes.
Is salmonella not a worry for you?
I don't vaccinate for salmonella. A lot of people do, and it's really important to do. Also, I don't know if it's climate out here. Fortunately, I haven't had an issue with salmonella. If I did, I would surely vaccinate for it.
Okay. Because I vaccinate for salmonella and PMV.
Yeah, it's a really, really good idea. I mean, I personally don't, but I don't recommend not doing it either.
Gotcha. Well, you've probably got a pretty good close flock too.
Well, yeah, I do travel a lot, and so my birds do build up some immunity because I show at so many shows throughout the year. So I think that helps.
Do you do anything to prep before the show? Like some guys give supplements, things like that, to boost their health before they, so they're not so susceptible to things. That's a hard word.
Yeah. I don't do a whole lot before. When I get home, I try to quarantine some of the show birds if I can. Okay. For me, I probably have 2,000 pigeons, so it's tough. I have automatic waterers, so it's tough for me to flock treat.
Right.
It's tough for me to single things out. I mean, every day, obviously, when I feed, I look around, make sure everybody looks okay.
Sure.
But as far as like vitamins and stuff before a show, no, I just don't have those capabilities. But I wish I did. Yeah. I mean, I wish I did. Anyone with a reasonable amount of pigeons, unlike myself, has has those capabilities, and I think it's really important.
You said 2,000 pigeons is what you're working with?
I probably have that many. I don't really count them. I don't want to know, but I would say
that must sound amazing.
Yeah, you have to ask my neighbors.
That's cool. I probably got 10% of that.
Well, that's enough too.
You're right. What's just out of curiosity? What's the feed bill on that?
I really don't add it up. Maybe I'm fortunate and I have a wholesale account with a feed company, and
there you go.
They're they treat me well. I go through a lot.
Gotcha. And that helps too when you're purchasing a volume. We have a similar situation, not on that scale, but it does help when you're getting seed from the same folks all the time.
Right, and I mean, the company I use also sponsors the National Volkman Seed Factory Winners Cup brand.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I've used that.
Yeah, they make a great breeder pellet. It's a 28% pellet that I mix in with during the breeding season with my normal mixture, 15%. It really works out well. I have anise oil added to the feed, and they get that year round.
Have you done the math on that and figured out what the actual percentage is?
No, it's a 15% mix. And then during the breeding season, I add 28% pellets. So it's 100 pounds of the grain mixture with the pellets come in 40-pound bags. So I put 2 bags of pellets, 2 bags of grain, mix them up, and use that during the breeding season for the birds that are feeding young ones.
So you're almost 1-to-1.
Yeah, almost. And so I use the 15% grain mix all the rest of the year. Like currently, I'm not using any pellets because I have nothing breeding.
So, John, in your article that you did with the N.P.A.'s third quarter bulletin, you spoke a lot about local shows and supporting your local shows. You mentioned earlier about like how the Western show had greater attendance. Do you think that that's also like due to people just really wanting to get back out, or is there anything else kind of driving this factor? Like our state club has definitely been growing just this last year. A lot more members have been coming, and then the shows have been better attended. What do you think is really? Did you think it's really just goes back to the COVID and people wanting to get out, or you think there's anything else to that?
I think there is. Unfortunately, we do lose pigeon fanciers. It seems like on a regular basis, due to death or extenuating circumstances. But pigeons, it's the oldest hobby in the world. So I hate hearing the pigeon hobby's dying. You can read articles from the 1960s in the old American Pigeon Journal about how the hobby's dying, we're not replacing. And I think that we're on an upswing. Our membership is growing in the N.P.A. Shows are getting bigger. There's new faces. There's younger faces, at least in most areas. In some areas, obviously, that's not the case. There are unfortunate situations where people just aren't stepping up to do the work. It is a lot of work to put on a pigeon show and, run a pigeon club. But I think the hobby's in good shape.
With you guys have a pretty good junior program, and I think that's a good way to bring a lot of kids into. And I forget where it is, but there's the in California, there's that high school that actually has a pigeon loft on its campus. You know what I'm talking about, John? What school that is?
I've heard something about that, but I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about it.
It was in this Share the Blue Sky documentary I watched, and it was in California. Some city actually has the pigeon loft on the school, and all the different things that these kids can learn from, weighing the babies, keeping records of who's breeding with who. And then they actually joined up with the race club in the area, and they participate in the races, figure out the velocity. And they've won a few races. They were actually doing pretty good. I thought that was, really interesting. All the different aspects that, these kids could be learning, and having it actually a pigeon loft built on the campus. I thought that was just really cool. I wish I could remember the name of the school and give them a shout out there, but hey, that's
I do know there's a group from Petaluma, which is north of San Francisco, that was just at our last show, and there was about 7 or 8 young people there, and it's a museum. I wish I would have got more information, but it's a museum, and they have live exhibits. They had taken some birds home from the show that they had either purchased or were given, and that was also a real nice addition to the hobby out here.
Okay, very cool. And you're cool. A board member of the National Pigeon Museum too, right?
Yes.
You still are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is the National Pigeon Museum?
That is in Edmond, Oklahoma, right outside of Oklahoma City. It's a beautiful facility. It was called the World of Wings for many years, and they never really got the museum building off the ground until I believe it was Rick Barker, Joel Kincaid, Jerry Black, a few others who are board members. I'm sorry, I didn't forget their names, and I'm remiss by not mentioning them. They sought out to finally build a museum, and Ed Pointer, who is an African owl breeder and also an N.P.A. board member in Oklahoma City, is a contractor, and he basically gave them a deal they couldn't refuse. And they were able to build a beautiful museum. Not the next Grand National will be in Louisville, Kentucky, but the one in January of 25 will be in Oklahoma City. And I would expect a lot of people there to visit the museum. The traffic going through the museum is increasing every year. It covers all aspects.
You said that's in Louisville?
That's in Oklahoma City, right outside of Oklahoma City, in a town called Edmond.
Okay, very cool.
And it's really something that every pigeon breeder should go and see.
Definitely. We've been trying to do we had some friends move not too far, probably a half hour away from there, and I was like, oh, there's my excuse. I can take the whole family out there and, go check out that museum. I mean, I really wanted to check out the war exhibit side of it. They have all the pigeons that served and stuff like that, all the stories. And that
they have that.
That's awesome.
A really nice reenactment of the birds in the war there, and it's really a nice place. So, like I said, something everyone should go see.
Definitely, I definitely
go,
want to.
Phil. You can get Southwest for probably $75.
Right.
Yeah. I got a better idea. Let's put out a Craigslist rideshare and see how that goes.
Yeah, however you can get to Oklahoma City, if you do it, I would.
I'm not an axe murderer, but I carry a chainsaw.
Do they still have live birds at the museum?
Yes, they do.
They do? Okay, cool.
Yeah, breeders from around the country have donated different birds, usually one of each breed. Not a whole lot of breeds, but enough, a big enough array so that the public, can see that all pigeons aren't the ones that are sitting on the wire.
Yeah, I know. That's, and every time I do bring up the National Pigeon Museum to people, they kind of, what, really? And of course, every time you start talking about different breeds, everybody always just assumes that, oh, if you're into pigeons, you just go out in the street and you're grabbing up some of these ferals, and there's so many different breeds, and it's always an eye opener for people once you get a chance to talk to them about it a little bit.
Right.
And
excuse me. Can now I caught the reenactment of the pigeons in the war and stuff. Can you give us a little rundown on what to expect? Like, does it go through breed by breed, or how's that go?
There's a lot of artwork in there. A lot of pigeon memorabilia from some of the, the well-known pigeon fanciers throughout the United States and overseas. There's obviously the aspect of the pigeons in the war, but there's so much more. There's artwork. The N.P.A. has a room there where people who've been awarded the Master Breeder Award, Master Judge Award, different awards throughout the years, prestigious awards. Their name is on display there. There's a lot of history there. I mean, there's a library where you can look at old magazines, old books for reference.
Do you have any idea of the square footage of the museum?
I should know this. I'm gonna guess 10 to 20,000 square feet, somewhere in there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty big. You can see it on the Google Street View. I've looked at it there, and it's a nice
building.
It's
a modern building. I mean, it's.
Oh, that's great. There's going to be some stuff to look at in there.
Yeah, it's right next door to the AU office.
Oh, cool. I got a stray the other day, and I got a phone call. Unfortunately, I didn't return it. I'm a jerk for that. I apologize, but I will be calling her back.
All right.
So, John, I want to talk about the N.P.A. new standards book that's coming out. I know that, me, Chris, I know a lot of people are waiting for this thing to hit the shelves. Is this, are you guys going to be able to bring that to the Pageant of Pigeons, or maybe in Louisville, have it up there?
At the Louisville National, we're hoping to have it there. We've run into a couple snags due to the size of it. The last one was well over 300 pages. This is over 600. So
wow.
finding a binder big enough was one issue, and there was some talk about having a 4-ring binder versus a 3-ring, so it's easier to turn pages. So we just had an N.P.A. board meeting, and the board members we voted on the style binder. It's ready to be printed. Gary Romick did an amazing job. He does our quarterly review. He's from Jerome, Arizona. He did
cool.
He typeset the whole book, it's all in color. Art Cardy and Roger Hansen, Brad Stuckey had a big part in it. They were on the committee of approving standards, and those guys did an immense amount of work it's been, at least 2 years. It's really a nice book.
How many new breeds are going to be in this issue?
Definitely over 100.
Wow, 100
Oh,
new ones.
wow. Can you name your favorite new breed?
My favorite, like new breed is in new to our country. There's not a whole lot of
New to that?
breeds.
No, new to that book.
Oh, new to that book. That would be pretty tough. Most of the newer breeds are rare breeds, and a lot of it is updates to old standards where clubs have updated their old standard. I mean, personally, I really like the new Chinese owl standard. Of course, that's my breed, but it's really a modern picture of the bird rather than the one we were using. And
so you say a new Chinese owl standard. That's cool.
More like a revised one.
Well, what you're mentioning there is something that's pretty cool. Phil and I have been talking about the American Show Racer and how it's evolved.
Yeah,
is
for
there
sure.
Anything updated in there?
I don't remember if the Show Racers got their update in, but I know if they haven't finished, they're definitely working on it.
In the Purebred Pigeon magazine, there was an article about the Niagara Powder as a new breed that they were trying to get, or maybe it's already been recognized as a new breed. Is it how long of a process is it to get a new breed recognized and officially be in the book?
Getting a new breed recognized is a pretty long process. First of all, you have to come out. Obviously, it's usually the crossing of 2 or 3, maybe 4 breeds, and until they breed true, so to speak, to where if you've crossed 2 breeds, you want them to start breeding true. So they have to be shown at a number of nationals, and then there's a committee that goes over them after, I believe it's 3 nationals, and that committee goes over them and decides whether or not the group, does look alike. You don't want, a new breed and there are 8 different shapes and sizes. They all have to be
uniform. When you say, sorry, I just cut you off and you were starting to answer the question I was asking. When you say breed true, you mean type, not color, correct?
Yes, type or color. I mean, a new breed could be, something where it's all about color.
Like a shield cropper.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Okay.
It would all depend on what the standard is of the people or person who is, doing the work creating the new breed.
Well, I also wanted to give you a chance to, because I'm sure that some of our listeners are non-N.P.A members, and the N.P.A support those who support you. The N.P.A does a lot for the pigeon hobby, especially shows, actually getting out there and doing things. Is there some time here if you want to throw a pitch out to any of these listeners to, join up with the N.P.A? Yeah,
I mean the N.P.A, we put out a quarterly magazine, and it's all in color. It's really a nice magazine. The second quarter is all of the champions from the previous Grand National, which is really a nice piece of work that gets put out. We provide bands, provide standards, and N.P.A USA is our website. Our secretary, Tim Heydrich, is in Georgia. His phone number is on there also. And Tim does a great job. He's very prompt in returning calls. He has a presence at a lot of the shows throughout the country.
Tim's a nice guy.
I can't say enough about what Tim and his wife Joni helps him quite a bit also. I can't say enough about what they've done.
He's been great. I talked to him about the Book of Standards, and we've developed a small list. Yeah, he's real helpful with everything we've done. The bands come out nice, good quality. Now, hey, since you mentioned the bands, I did want to ask because, I put in a phone call to the AU. They called me right back looking for the owner of that bird. does N.P.A have something similar? Can we call him and find a series number or something? Do you know
Yeah,
my address? Or
absolutely. I mean, right now Tim's probably fielding 10 to 12 calls a day. I get quite a few calls. Somewhere my phone number is on the internet, and I get quite a few calls, and I refer them to Tim. Most of the time, it's a racing pigeon, so then we have to refer them to the AU. But
sure,
there are plenty of N.P.A banded birds that do get lost, and yeah, we have a registry.
My rollers get N.P.A bands.
Yeah, rollers, so, Tim has all that. So if there are any lost birds out there, he's happy to at least provide the phone number of the owner.
I had one returned the other day, and now it's been a fantastic bird. It's coming home, and it's doing everything it should. It's great to have, the bands be able to be called in.
Well, John, we're coming up against the time here, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing for the N.P.A. And also thanks for coming on here and helping us promote the hobby as well. And
yeah, we appreciate you guys out there promoting it. Any promotion like this is great. It opens the public's eyes that they're not just flying rats like they've been called.
No.
We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to seeing how those shows come out too, and looking forward to the next N.P.A quarterly as well.
Sounds good.
Do you have any information on the Pageant of Pigeons?
Yes, I do. So the Pageant of Pigeons will be held in Victorville, California, November 16th to 18th. Admission free, as is the case with 99% of the pigeon shows in the country. Any information, you can look up Los Angeles Pigeon Club.
And that's LAPC?
LAPC, yeah. The Pageant of Pigeons is one of the most historic shows in the country. I'm expecting a really good show as usual.
Are you going to be there?
Yes, I will be there.
Oh, man. We might have to sneak up on them.
That's right.
So, we're gonna run a test so it's super quiet. Sneaky. All right. Hey, thanks for that. I looked up the Pageant of Pigeons, and it was surprisingly difficult to find anything that wasn't Facebook. Just saying, I just thrown that out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've never had I have a Facebook account. I've never blogged on or typed in. Cameron DeTanigan in Hawaii kind of runs that for me. He does a great job. So between him and one of our board members, Amy Klopman in Michigan, they sort of keep me abreast of things going on, but I'm just not a social media guy, so I've never had an account on it.
I dig it. I wish I'd never touched it.
Yeah, I just nothing against Facebook or any of that, because you know what, it's been great for the hobby. I mean, guys can share pictures back and forth and communicate. And
can you do a favor for me? You've piqued my curiosity with 2,000 birds. Can you send me or Phil a picture of your setup?
Yeah.
Or even just share it on the. I mean, if you don't want me to share it, we won't share it. But I'm really curious. I'd like to see that, man. That'd be awesome.
Try to figure something out on the smartphone and get it to you.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, John, thanks for coming on again. We really appreciate you coming on. I feel like we could have had this thing go for an hour and just kept asking you a bunch of questions, but
we could have sat here all night.
Easily.
I'd be cool with that. This is a great conversation.
Absolutely.
I appreciate everything you've given to us, for sure.
Well, that sounds good. And like I said, we appreciate you guys out there promoting the hobby.
Thank you, John.
All right. Well.